Hi guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're coming across my channel for the very first time, you are highly welcome. And to my returning subscribers, thank you for always taking out time to watch my videos. I'm not taking any of it for granted. So in today's tutorial, we'll be making a peplum top. The peplum top, and I have my measurement right there. The length I'm working with, the blouse length I'm working with is 29 inches. Half length 18.5 inches, and my bust measurement of 48 inches, and waist circumference measurement of 44 inches. To get my peplum length, I'm going to subtract my blouse length from my half length. So it will be 29 minus 18.5 will give me my peplum length. So I have my fabric on the table, and these are the items I'll be working with: the chalk, my tape measure, the scissors, ruler. So I'm going to set them aside. I'll be setting them aside, and I have my fabric folded into two on the table. I'll be cutting both the front and the back together. I'll be working with the stretchy fabric. I already have it cut out. I cut out using the biggest circumference measurements of my body. So I'll be cutting both the front and back piece together. The first thing I'll be doing on my fabric is to measure my shoulder measurements. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 16 inches. 16 into 2 will give me 8 inches. So I'm going to measure out 8 inches for my shoulder measurements. I'll be taking 8 inches for my shoulder measurements. And on that 8 inches point, I'm going to take my armhole measurement. The armhole I'm working with is 9 inches. So I'm going to measure 9 inches for my armhole measurement. Having done that, I'm going to connect to the 8 inches point on my shoulder line. I'll be connecting into a straight line to form my armhole line. Having done that, next thing I'll be doing is to determine the midpoint of the line. I'm going to determine the midpoint of the line, and on that midpoint, I'll be taking my armhole cuff. Okay, having done that, I'll then move over to the neckline area. I'll be taking my neckline. I'll be using 4 inches width by 4.5 inches depth for the front neck design. And for the back neck design, I'll be using 4 inches width and 2 inches depth for the back neck design. For the back neck, I'll be using 2 inches depth, while for the front neckline, I'll be using 4.5 inches depth. The next thing for me to do is to take my shoulder slope. I'll be slanting by 1 inches for my shoulder slope. Having done that, I will then move over to the body to take my body measurements. Because I'll be using a stretchy fabric, I won't be adding any darts to the bodies. I won't be adding darts to the bodies, and there will be no zipper as well. So I'll be taking my bust measurements on my bodies now. The bust measurement I'm working with is 48 inches. 48 into 4 will give me 12 inches. I will be adding half-inch allowance to it, just half-inch allowance. From my shoulder line to 18 inches, 18.5 is my waist measurement. So I'll be taking my waist measurement on 18.5, but I cut out 19.5. So the 1 inch is for the seam allowance, is to join it to the peplum. So on that waistline, I'll be taking my waist measurement of 11 inches. I'll also be adding half-inch allowance to it. I'm going to connect both lines together. I'll be connecting now. Having done that, the next thing to do is to cut out. So I'm going to be cutting it out now. Please note that while cutting out, I will only cut for the back neckline first. I won't be cutting for the front neckline. I will only cut out for the back neckline first. I'm going to remove it, set the back pattern aside before I cut for the front neckline. After setting it aside, I can then go ahead to cut for the front neckline. So our pattern is ready for both the front and the back piece. So when we open it up, I'm going to open it up to show you what we have, how it's going to look like. So I've placed them on each other, and this is what we have for our upper bodies. Then I will then go ahead to cut out the flay parts. To calculate our flay, in determining the amount of fabrics we'll be needing for the flay, we'll be subtracting the blouse length from the half length. My blouse length is 29 inches, the half length 18.5. So I'm going to subtract 18.5 from 29, and I'm left with 10.5. So the flare length I'll be working with is 10.5. I'll be adding 1 inch to it for the seam allowance. 10.5 plus 1 will give me 11.5. So I will then determine my radius. And the radius is the distance from the center of the circle to any part of the circle. From that midpoint to any part of the circle with it is the radius. Well, whatever I get for my radius, I'll be adding it to the 11.5. And in calculating my radius, the formula we'll be using is circumference over 2 pi. The formula I'll be using to determine my radius is circumference over 2 pi. And we know that our pi is 22 divided by 7, which is 3.142. And my waist circumference is 44 inches. So 44 over 2 times 3.142, which is 44 divided by 6.284. 44 divided by 6.28, and the radius is 7. That is how I arrive at my 7. So we are doing a little bit of mathematics. So my radius is 7 inches. So I'm going to add 7 inches to 11.5. I'll be adding the 7 inches to 11.5, and that gives me 18.5. So I folded my fabrics into 4 because I'll be cutting a full circle. I folded it into 4. I'll be needing 18.5 inches length and the breadth as well. So I'm going to take my radius of 7 inches round, then I'll be taking the flare length. So having done that, I'm going to set the paper aside. I'll set the paper aside, straighten my fabrics. My fabric is folded into 4. Then I will take 7 inches from the center of the fabric. I'll measure around 7 inches. And that's the radius. My radius is 7 inches. I'm checking if the fabrics I have there will be enough, because I'll be needing 18.5. So what I have is enough. I'll then go over to measure out my flare. I'll be taking 7 inches round. I'm taking 7 inches like so. The next thing for me to do now is to join the dotted lines together. I'll join the dotted points together. Just for me to be sure of what I have, I'm going to take my tape measure. I'll take it round the line so that I will confirm whatsoever I have there. Since my waist circumference is 44 inches and my fabrics is into 4, I should be able to have 11 when I take my tape rule round. So that is exactly what I have. That is exactly what I have. So I'll go over now to take my flare length. I'll measure 11.5 round as my flay length of 11.5. I'm going to take it round. So the next thing for me to do now is to cut out. I will then be cutting out for the flay. When cutting out, I'm not going to cut exactly on the line. So I'll be adding like 0.5 inch seam allowance. I won't be cutting exactly on the line. On that line, I'm just going to add 0.5 inch to it. So that is my flay. You can use this method to cut any flay you want. If you are attaching a flay to your sleeve, it is the same method you will use to cut your flay. It's pretty straightforward and simple. So I'm raising it up for you to see what I have achieved. That is my flay. I will just attach to the upper bodies, and our peplum blouse will be ready. So that is my peplum blouse, and I'll take it to my sewing machine. I'll join the side piece together. I'll join the piece together. So thank you very much for staying with me till this time. Please kindly subscribe. Bye.